There is a currency you have been spending every day without noticing. You give it to people who insult you, to arguments that drain you, to problems that do not deserve your peace, and to a world designed to steal your focus. That currency is your attention. And the more carelessly you give it away, the weaker your inner life becomes. Because attention is not just where you look. Attention is where your energy goes. It decides what grows in your mind, what controls your emotions, and what slowly shapes your life. Stoicism teaches that the mind is not mastered by controlling the whole world. It is mastered by choosing what deserves your focus. You cannot control what people say, how they behave, whether they misunderstand you, or whether the world becomes noisy. But you can control whether you hand your mind over to every disturbance. Marcus Aurelius understood that the quality of life depends deeply on the quality of thought, and thought is shaped by attention. What you feed with attention becomes stronger. What you refuse to feed begins to lose power. Think about a heated argument. Someone says something disrespectful, unfair, or completely false. Immediately, your body reacts. Your chest tightens. Your mind begins building a defense. You feel the need to answer, to correct them, to prove you are right, to make them understand. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, why does their sentence have so much power over your state of mind? The words themselves are not the real prison. The meaning you attach to them is. Most people react because they believe silence means defeat. They think if they do not answer, they have lost dignity, respect, or control. But the truth is often the opposite. The moment you react blindly, you have already given the situation authority over you. You have allowed someone else's words to decide your emotions, your tone, your behavior, and sometimes your entire day. That is not strength. That is surrender disguised as self-defense. The Stoic lesson is simple, but difficult. You cannot control the actions of others, but you can always train your response. This is where real power lives, not in shouting louder, not in winning every argument, not in proving yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Real power appears in the pause, that quiet moment when everything inside you wants to react. But you choose calm instead. You choose silence over chaos. You choose command over impulse. This does not mean you become passive. It does not mean you let people walk over you or avoid every confrontation. Stoicism is not weakness. It is discernment. Some battles require a clear response. Some boundaries must be spoken. Some situations demand action. But not every insult deserves your time. Not every criticism deserves a defense. Not every provocation deserves access to your energy. The wise person does not fight every fire. He decides which fires are worth his strength. Look back honestly. How many times have you allowed someone's comment to ruin your mood? How many times have you spent hours replaying one sentence, one message, one look, one accusation? How many times have you argued over something that changed nothing, solved nothing, and only left you more drained? These are the moments where your attention was stolen, not by force, but by habit. You were trained to react, and because you reacted, the world learned how easily your peace could be disturbed. But when you stop reacting automatically, something changes. You break the cycle. You stop feeding the drama. You create distance between what happens and what enters your soul. Silence becomes not an escape, but a shield. Calm becomes not weakness, but discipline. You begin to understand that the peace you protect by not responding is far more valuable than the temporary satisfaction of being right. So ask yourself today, what has been consuming your attention that does not deserve it? Who has been living in your mind without paying rent? What argument, insult, fear, or distraction keeps pulling energy away from your growth, your purpose, and your peace? Your attention is sacred. Spend it like it matters, because it does. And once you learn to protect your attention, the next lesson becomes clear. Not every battle is meant to be fought, and not every voice deserves a response. Not every battle deserves your attention. This is one of the hardest lessons to accept, because the ego loves to fight. The ego wants to answer every insult, correct every misunderstanding, defend every decision, and prove itself to people who may not even be listening. But Stoicism asks a stronger question. What is this reaction going to cost me? Will it bring clarity, peace, and justice? Or will it only give my energy to something that was never worthy of it? Think about the people you respect most. They are rarely the loudest in the room. They do not react to every small comment, and they do not make their emotions available to every provocation. There is a quiet confidence in them. They observe before speaking. They choose their words carefully. They are not desperate to be understood by everyone because they already understand themselves. That kind of presence does not come from pride. It comes from inner stability. This is the power of emotional detachment. It is not about becoming cold or indifferent. It is about refusing to become entangled in every passing disturbance. You can care deeply and still choose not to react. You can have boundaries without being consumed by anger. You can see disrespect clearly without allowing it to take over your nervous system. Detachment does not mean nothing matters. It means you finally know what matters enough to deserve your energy. The Stoic idea of virtue makes this even clearer. Virtue is not winning every argument. Virtue is not making everyone admit that you were right. Virtue is self-mastery. It is patience when anger is easy. It is restraint when reaction feels satisfying. It is wisdom when the crowd wants drama. It is courage to stay grounded when someone tries to pull you into chaos. The victory is not always outside you. Often, the victory is that you did not betray your peace. This is why the practice of ignoring can become a tool for mental freedom. Not ignoring everything, not avoiding responsibility, not pretending problems do not exist, but learning to ignore what only weakens your mind. A petty insult, a manipulative comment, a useless argument, a person who only wants your reaction, not your understanding. When you refuse to give these things your attention, you are not losing. You are reclaiming the throne of your own mind. The world will always test you. People will say things to provoke you. Situations will appear that tempt you to abandon calmness. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will criticize you. Someone will try to make their emotional storm your responsibility. But when you practice strategic detachment, you stop living like a puppet pulled by external strings. You decide what enters your inner world. You decide what deserves your response. You decide where your attention goes. This is not easy at first, because reaction is a habit. You may be used to defending yourself immediately. You may feel guilty when you do not answer. You may believe that silence makes you look weak. But the more you practice, the more you discover the opposite. Silence can be strength. Calm can be authority. Not responding can be the clearest response of all, because it says, "You do not control me." Marcus Aurelius understood that the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. If your thoughts are constantly shaped by insults, drama, fear, and other people's opinions, your life will feel unstable. But if you protect your attention, your thoughts begin to return to order. The noise becomes background. The drama becomes less personal. You begin to see people and situations clearly without being dragged into every emotional current. So begin with one simple practice. The next time you feel the urge to react, pause. Take one breath. Ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? If the answer is no, let it pass. Do not feed it. Do not chase it. Do not give it space in your mind. If the answer is yes, then respond with clarity, not impulse. Speak from principle, not wounded pride. The less you react to what does not matter, the more energy you have for what does. Your growth, your purpose, your discipline, your peace, your relationships that actually nourish you, your work that actually builds your future. Every reaction you refuse becomes energy returned to your own life. This is emotional mastery in practice. Not being untouchable because nothing happens to you, but becoming steady because not everything gets access to you. You do not have to catch every stone thrown in your direction. You do not have to answer every noise. You do not have to give your mind to every person who wants to disturb it. Protect your attention. Protect your peace. Choose your battles with wisdom, because the person who controls your attention controls a part of your life unless you take that power back. And in the next part, we will go deeper into what happens when you stop giving people the emotional reaction they expect from you. The moment you withhold your attention, you take back control of your mental space. Think about how much energy is spent every day reacting to others, arguing, explaining, defending, correcting, justifying. Most of it feels important in the moment, but later you realize it changed nothing. It only pulled you deeper into a cycle where someone else's behavior decided the state of your mind. Some people thrive on your reactions. They provoke, criticize, insult, or create tension because they have learned that you will give them energy. They know which words make you defensive. They know which tone makes you angry. They know how to pull you into a conversation you never needed to enter. But when you stop giving them the response they expect, the pattern begins to break. Silence sends a message without needing to speak. You do not control me. That is why it can be so powerful. People expect you to fight back. They expect you to prove yourself, explain yourself, or become emotionally involved. But when you refuse to engage, you change the entire power dynamic. You are not running away. You are standing your ground from a higher place. This kind of silence is not weakness. It is not fear. It is the discipline of choosing your response instead of letting someone else choose it for you. A Stoic does not need to react just because the world demands a reaction. He does not need to defend his ego every time it feels threatened. He understands that peace is more valuable than the temporary satisfaction of having the last word. And something interesting happens when you stop reacting. People who depend on your emotional response begin to lose their influence. Their words no longer land the same way. Their attempts to provoke you feel smaller. Their drama has less grip, not because they changed, but because you changed the way you participate. You stopped giving your nervous system away to every person who wanted access to it. But the deeper victory is not over them. It is over yourself. Every time you feel the urge to react and choose not to, you prove something to your own mind. You prove that your peace matters more than impulse. You prove that you are not a slave to anger, pride, insecurity, or the need to be understood. You prove that you can feel the heat of the moment without being consumed by it. This is one of the core disciplines of Stoicism. Control over your own response, no matter what the world throws at you. It does not mean you never speak. It means when you do speak, it comes from reason, not from wounded pride. It means you do not let another person's emotional storm become the weather inside your own mind. You remain grounded because your center is no longer outside of you. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. At first, silence may feel uncomfortable. You may feel the old urge to answer, defend, or correct. You may worry that people will think they won. But over time, you realize that not every situation has to end with your explanation. Sometimes the win is keeping your peace. Sometimes the win is walking away with your mind intact. This also teaches self-reliance. Many people react because they are secretly seeking validation. They want others to confirm their worth, understand their intentions, or approve their choices. But when you detach from that need, you begin to trust yourself more. You no longer need every person to see you clearly in order to stand clearly within yourself. Your worth becomes less dependent on outside agreement. Seneca warned that we waste much of life. One of the ways we waste it is by giving our attention to things that do not deserve it. Every petty argument, every emotional trap, every attempt to prove yourself to someone who is not listening takes time and energy from what truly matters. Your growth, your purpose, your discipline, your peace. So the next time someone tries to pull you into a reaction, pause. Do not immediately give them your energy. Ask yourself, is this worth the cost? If it is not, remain silent. If it requires a response, speak calmly and clearly, without surrendering your inner state. Let your silence be discipline, not avoidance. Let your words be chosen, not forced. When you stop reacting to everything, you begin to feel lighter. You stop living as if every opinion is a command. You stop letting other people's moods become your responsibility. You reclaim your time, your focus, and your emotional strength. And in that reclaimed space, you begin to see another truth. Some people only have power over you because you keep feeding them your attention. Some people only feel powerful when they can disturb your peace. They provoke, insult, manipulate, complain, criticize, or create drama. because they are looking for one thing: your reaction. Your anger becomes their proof that they matter. Your defense becomes their reward. Your emotional response becomes the fuel that keeps the pattern alive. But the moment you stop feeding them with attention, their power over you begins to fade. This is not about hating people or becoming cold. It is about seeing clearly. Some people do not come to you for understanding. They come for access. Access to your energy. Access to your emotions. Access to your time. They want to pull you into their storm so they do not have to sit alone with themselves. A Stoic learns to recognize this without becoming cruel. He simply stops giving sacred energy to behavior that only drains him. Think of a person trying to bait you into an argument. They say something insulting, twist your words, or make a passive-aggressive comment. In the past, you may have felt the need to strike back immediately. You wanted to prove them wrong, defend your name, or show that you were not weak. But now you pause. You see the game. You understand that if you grab the rope, the tug-of-war begins. So instead, you let go of the rope. That is one of the strongest moves you can make. When you refuse to play on their terms, the game collapses. They are left holding the tension alone. Their words no longer control your breathing. Their mood no longer decides your mood. Their chaos no longer becomes your responsibility. This is not defeat. This is freedom. The Stoics would call this self-control. Not the control of others, but the control of yourself. You cannot stop every toxic person from speaking. You cannot stop every insecure person from seeking drama. You cannot stop every manipulative person from testing your boundaries. But you can decide that your attention is not available for every performance. You can decide that your peace is more important than proving a point. This applies in ordinary moments, not only dramatic ones. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Someone makes a sarcastic comment. Someone sends a message designed to trigger you. Someone tries to pull you into gossip, conflict, or emotional pressure. Before you react, breathe. Ask yourself, is this worth the price of my peace? Most of the time, the answer will be no. When you practice this, you begin to feel how much energy you are wasting. You stop replaying arguments in your mind. You stop giving hours of thought to people who deserve only a few seconds of awareness. You stop carrying someone else's immaturity through your entire day. And with that energy returned, you can finally give more attention to what actually builds you. Your discipline, your work, your health, your family, your growth, your purpose. There is also another truth here. People respect what is not carelessly available. If you are always ready to answer every demand, absorb every mood, fix every problem, and respond to every provocation, people begin to treat your attention as something cheap. But when you become more selective, your presence gains weight. You teach people, without speeches, that your time and energy are valuable. This does not mean you ignore everyone or shut your heart down. It means you become discerning. You give attention to what is meaningful, respectful, honest, and aligned with your values. You stop giving it to people who only take, drain, provoke, or manipulate. Your attention is not a public resource. It is part of your life. Spend it where it creates strength, peace, love, wisdom, and growth. So begin today. Do not react to every barking dog on the road. Do not answer every insult as if it deserves a courtroom. Do not let every emotional person become the director of your inner state. Let some things pass. Let some people misunderstand you. Let some noise remain noise. You do not need to pick up every stone thrown in your direction. The more you practice this, the more grounded you become. You start walking through life with a calmer authority. People may still test you, but they no longer move you so easily. Drama may still appear, but it no longer owns your mind. You become the one who chooses what enters your inner world. That is the art of ignoring in its strongest form. Not avoidance, not arrogance, not emotional emptiness, but disciplined attention. You are choosing what deserves your life force. And once you learn to stop feeding external drama, the next step becomes even deeper. Learning to stop feeding the useless noise inside your own mind. The art of ignoring does not only apply to other people, it also applies to your own mind. Because sometimes, the loudest enemy is not the person who insults you, criticizes you, or tries to provoke you. Sometimes the loudest enemy is the voice inside your own head, the voice that repeats old fears, magnifies mistakes, imagines rejection, and turns one small problem into a storm. How often do you give your attention to thoughts that do not serve you? A worry appears, and you follow it for an hour. A memory returns, and you let it poison your mood. A mistake happens, and you replay it again and again until it becomes larger than it really was. Someone looks at you differently, and suddenly your mind creates an entire story about judgment, rejection, or failure. This is also reaction. It is mental reaction. The Stoics understood that real strength is not only controlling what you say in public, it is also controlling what you feed in private. Not every thought deserves your belief. Not every fear deserves your attention. Not every insecurity deserves a conversation. Some thoughts are only noise. They pass through the mind like clouds through the sky. But when you hold them, study them, and feed them with emotion, they begin to feel like truth. Imagine you make a mistake. The undisciplined mind immediately says, "You always fail. You are not good enough. Everyone will judge you. This proves you cannot change." But a Stoic mind pauses. It does not deny the mistake. It does not pretend nothing happened. It simply refuses to turn one event into an identity. It asks, what can I learn? What is in my control now? What action should I take next? That is the difference between self-punishment and self-mastery. Many people are trapped, not by reality, but by the stories they keep repeating about reality. They suffer twice, once from what happened, and again from the meaning they attach to it. A criticism becomes, "I am worthless." A delay becomes, "My life is over." A rejection becomes, "No one will ever value me." But most of these meanings are not facts. They are emotional interpretations. And if you believe every interpretation your mind produces, you will become a prisoner of your own inner noise. This is why you must learn to observe your thoughts without obeying all of them. When anxiety speaks, you do not have to answer immediately. When insecurity rises, you do not have to build your identity around it. When fear predicts failure, you do not have to bow down to it. You can notice the thought, breathe, and let it pass without giving it the throne of your mind. This does not mean suppressing emotions. Stoicism is not denial. It is clarity. You are allowed to feel fear, sadness, anger, or doubt. But you do not have to let those emotions drive your decisions. You can feel something deeply and still choose wisely. You can experience inner noise and still return to reason. You can be uncomfortable and still remain in command. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to return to what was present, what was useful, and what was within his control. That is the discipline. Not chasing every fear into the future, not dragging every regret from the past, not letting imagination become a tyrant. The mind becomes peaceful when it is trained to stay with what is real, what is necessary, and what can actually be acted upon. So when a useless thought appears, do not fight it dramatically. Do not make it bigger by wrestling with it all day. Simply ask, does this thought help me live with wisdom, courage, discipline, or peace? If it does not, let it pass. Return to the task. Return to the breath. Return to the next right action. This is how mental space is reclaimed, not by force, but by refusal to feed what weakens you. Over time, this practice changes your inner world. The fears may still appear, but they do not command you the same way. The old doubts may still whisper, but they no longer decide your path. The mind becomes less crowded. You begin to feel space again. Space for focus, space for discipline, space for gratitude, space for growth. This is freedom. Not the absence of every negative thought, but the power to choose which thoughts deserve your attention. You stop being controlled by every passing fear. You stop reacting to every insecurity. You stop turning mental noise into destiny. And once you can ignore the distractions inside your own mind, you become much harder to control from the outside. In the next part, we will go deeper into how this power changes your relationships, how boundaries, self-respect, and selective attention help you protect your peace without becoming cold or disconnected. When you begin protecting your attention, some people may misunderstand you. They may think you have become cold, distant, or selfish. But there is a difference between being closed-hearted and being self-respecting. You can care about people deeply without giving unlimited access to your mind. You can love others without letting their chaos rule your nervous system. You can be kind without becoming available for every demand, every mood, and every emotional emergency. Stoicism does not teach us to reject connection. It teaches us to build connection from wisdom, not weakness. True connection is not constant access. It is mutual respect. If someone only comes to you to take, drain, provoke, or demand, that is not connection. That is consumption. And if you keep giving your attention to people who never honor it, you slowly teach them that your peace has no boundary. Your time and energy are not cheap things. They are pieces of your life. Every hour you give away is an hour you cannot recover. Every emotional battle you enter leaves something inside you, either strengthened or drained. Seneca warned that life is not short simply because time is limited. It becomes short because so much of it is wasted. And one of the greatest wastes is giving your best energy to people and situations that give nothing meaningful back. This is why selective attention is not arrogance. It is discipline. You are not saying, I am better than everyone. You are saying, my peace has value. My mind has value. My energy has value. I cannot give it away carelessly. A person who respects himself learns to ask, does this relationship bring honesty, growth, balance, and peace? Or does it only bring confusion, guilt, manipulation, and exhaustion? Some people will only notice your value when you stop being endlessly available, when you always answer immediately, always explain, always rescue, always absorb their emotions. They may begin to treat your presence as guaranteed. But when you step back, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect, the dynamic changes. Your silence teaches what your words could not. Access to your energy must be earned through respect. This does not mean you punish people by ignoring them. That is not stoic. That is ego. The goal is not to make people chase you or feel small. The goal is to live with dignity. If someone sincerely wants to connect, listen, repair, or grow, then respond with honesty and calm. But if someone only wants to pull you into the same old cycle of drama, blame, and emotional pressure, you are allowed to step away without guilt. Boundaries are not walls built from hatred. They are doors built with wisdom. They allow the right things in and keep destructive things out. Without boundaries, your mind becomes a public room where anyone can enter and rearrange your peace. With boundaries, your attention becomes intentional. You decide who receives your time. You decide which conversations deserve depth. You decide which problems are yours to carry and which ones were never yours in the first place. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by demands, criticism, politics, betrayal, and pressure. Yet the Stoic discipline was always the same. Return to what is yours to govern. Your judgment, your choices, your actions, your character. You cannot make everyone respect you, but you can stop disrespecting yourself by staying where your spirit is constantly drained. You cannot control how others behave, but you can control how much access their behavior has to your inner world. This shift changes the way you see yourself. You stop believing your worth comes from being needed by everyone. You stop measuring your value by how much you can carry for others. You stop thinking love requires self-abandonment. Instead, you begin to understand that your worth is intrinsic. You do not become valuable because you exhaust yourself. You are already valuable, and because of that, your energy must be protected. The more you practice this, the lighter your life becomes. You feel less pulled apart. You have more space for the relationships that actually nourish you. You have more attention for your work, your health, your purpose, and your own growth. You stop being controlled by the fear of disappointing people who were never satisfied anyway. You stop living as if every request is a command. So ask yourself honestly, where have you confused availability with love? Where have you allowed guilt to replace wisdom? Where have you kept giving attention to people who only leave you empty? The answer is not to become hard. The answer is to become clear. Give deeply where there is respect. Love wisely where there is balance. Speak when truth is needed. Step back when peace is being traded for drama. Your attention is yours to give. And when you choose carefully, you reclaim your power. You stop being pulled into every emotional storm. and you begin living from a deeper center. In the next part, we will go further into the final discipline of this practice, staying present in the world without being consumed by its noise. The final discipline of the art of ignoring is learning how to stay present in the world without being consumed by it. You are not meant to run away from life. You are not meant to isolate yourself, pretend nothing matters, or become emotionally dead. Stoicism is not escape. It is the ability to stand in the middle of noise and still belong to yourself. Every day, the world demands your attention. Messages, opinions, arguments, news, expectations, problems, criticism, comparison, everything is asking for a piece of your mind. If you're not careful, your life becomes a reaction to whatever is loudest. You wake up with your own purpose, but by noon your attention has been hijacked by other people's emotions, other people's drama, and other people's priorities. This is why presence requires discipline. To be present does not mean giving your mind to everything around you. It means being awake enough to choose. You can hear the noise without obeying it. You can see the chaos without becoming part of it. You can care about people without allowing every mood, every comment, and every demand to pull you away from your center. The Stoic does not ask, "What is everyone trying to make me feel?" He asks, "What is within my control right now?" That question brings power back. Your attention returns to your actions, your values, your choices, your character. You stop living as if the world has the right to decide your inner state. You become anchored, and this is where freedom begins. When you stop seeking constant validation, you stop giving away your power. You no longer need every person to approve of your path. You no longer need applause to continue. You no longer need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your worth begins to come from alignment, from knowing that your actions, your principles, and your direction are honest. Carl Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But you cannot become who you truly are while constantly chasing the approval of people who do not know your soul. You cannot build a life of purpose while reacting to every voice that tries to pull you off course. At some point, you must choose. Will you be shaped by noise, or will you be guided by truth? This does not mean you reject feedback. Wise people can correct you. Honest relationships can refine you. Life itself can teach you. But there is a difference between correction and noise. Correction helps you grow. Noise only pulls you into confusion. Correction comes with truth. Noise comes with pressure. The disciplined mind learns to recognize the difference. Imagine moving through your day with this kind of clarity. Someone criticizes you, and you listen only for what is useful. Someone tries to provoke you, and you let the bait fall to the ground. Someone demands your energy, and you ask whether the demand is honest or manipulative. A fear rises in your mind, and you observe it without immediately believing it. This is not coldness. This is maturity. The world will always try to pull you in different directions. There will always be people who want you to react, distractions that want your focus, and situations that test your peace. But you do not have to catch everything thrown at you. You do not have to answer every noise. You do not have to make every external event the master of your internal world. The more you practice this, the more your life becomes intentional. You begin to give energy to what truly matters: your growth, your work, your health, your family, your faith, your peace, your purpose. You stop wasting your best strength on what only drains you. You stop living as if being available to everything is the same as being alive. A person who masters attention becomes difficult to control, not because he is stubborn, but because he is awake. He knows what deserves his focus. He knows what is only a distraction. He knows when to speak, when to act, when to walk away, and when to remain silent. His strength is not loud, but it is felt. His peace is not fragile, because it is no longer dependent on the behavior of others. So today, practice being present without being consumed. Be kind, but not easily manipulated. Be open, but not careless with your energy. Be aware of the world, but do not let the world live rent-free in your mind. Listen when wisdom speaks. Ignore when noise only wants control. This is how you become anchored, not by controlling everything outside you, but by mastering the one thing that was always yours, your attention. And in the final part, we will bring everything together, how ignoring what drains you becomes the path to reclaiming your power, your peace, and your life. The art of ignoring is not about becoming indifferent to life. It is about becoming free from everything that tries to control your inner world. It is the discipline of choosing what deserves your energy, what deserves your response, and what deserves space in your mind. When you stop reacting to every insult, every fear, every demand, and every distraction, you begin to reclaim something most people lose without realizing it: command over yourself. The world will always be noisy. People will misunderstand you. Some will provoke you. Some will criticize what they cannot control. Some will try to pull you into their drama because they do not know how to sit alone with their own disorder. But none of that has to become the center of your life. You do not have to catch every stone thrown at you. You do not have to answer every voice. You do not have to give your peace to every passing storm. Stoicism teaches that your power is not found in controlling what happens around you. It is found in governing what happens within you. Your judgment, your attention, your response, your character. These are the places where freedom begins. When you choose not to react from wounded pride, you are not losing power. You are proving that your mind belongs to you. This practice will not make every problem disappear. It will not stop difficult people from being difficult. It will not make life quiet, but it will make you quieter inside. And that is where strength grows. You begin to walk through the world with more clarity. You see what matters and what only steals energy. You learn to respond when response is necessary, and to remain silent when silence protects your peace. Think of how different your life becomes when your attention is no longer for sale. You stop wasting hours on arguments that change nothing. You stop replaying conversations that only weaken you. You stop begging for validation from people who do not understand your path. You stop letting toxic behavior become the soundtrack of your day. Instead, you invest your energy in what builds you: discipline, health, wisdom, meaningful work, honest relationships, and inner peace. This is not weakness. This is maturity. Anyone can react. Anyone can shout back. Anyone can defend the ego when it feels threatened. But it takes strength to pause. It takes wisdom to choose silence. It takes discipline to let the noise remain noise while you keep moving toward your purpose. The person who can do this becomes harder to manipulate, harder to distract, and harder to defeat from within. So protect your mental space. Guard your attention as if it is one of the most valuable things you own, because it is. What you focus on becomes stronger. What you feed with emotion gains power. What you keep giving attention to becomes part of your life. Choose carefully. Give your best energy to what deserves to grow. If someone tries to provoke you, pause. If fear tries to control you, observe it. If drama calls your name, let it pass. If your own thoughts begin to attack you, return to what is real and what is within your control. You do not need to obey every emotion. You do not need to believe every thought. You do not need to answer every person. The true power of ignoring is the power to live intentionally. You stop being pulled in every direction. You stop allowing the world to decide your mood. You stop living as a reaction. And slowly, you become anchored, calm, focused, and clear. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become disciplined enough not to give your inner world away. So stay grounded, stay focused, protect your peace. Give attention to what strengthens your soul and withdraw it from what only drains you. The world may continue to make noise, but you do not have to become noise with it. Your attention is yours. Your peace is yours. Your life is yours. And when you master where your energy goes, you begin to master the direction of your life. If this reflection helped you, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom inspired by Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. And leave this in the comments as a promise to yourself. I protect my attention and I reclaim my power.